All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of The Urban Gardener. I want to thank you all so much for joining me today on this episode. Please, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below. Follow along with more garden adventures as we get growing along here this season. Today, we're out in the back alley, or the side alleyway actually, here where we left off last episode. This is part 2 of our 2018 summer garden tour. So we're going to take a look around here at some of the other spaces that we didn't get to look at last week. We got the back patio, we got the back alleyway. We're going to take a look at our corn that we planted out a few episodes ago and see where we're at with that. Let's go take a look around. Let's get growing. All right, so as you saw, we were just weeding out here our space in the alleyway. Now with most gardens, weeding is a chore that has to be done quite a bit. But when you're growing in an alleyway, the weed pressure is really, really intense. So we really got to keep on top of this. As you can tell, we're only partway done here. We got some really tough weeds that like to crawl and get into everything. We're trying to keep them from getting underneath of our raised beds here. Now let's take a look here. What do we got? This is cabbage that we planted out in an episode. I'll put an iCard up right above right now about plant spacing. So we planted out these cabbages. One of the things we were pointing out then in that episode too was little cabbage moths and different bugs, especially here in the alleyway too. You get a lot of that pressure. You can see, a lot of leaf damage. And as the heat's getting going on here now, I'm pretty sure that these guys are going to want to start pushing towards seed. We do got a couple of nice little cabbages inside a couple of them here. But for the most part, like with everything else here in the gardens, we are a little bit late planting certain things out, so we were just going to see what we were going to end up with, and looks like we'll end up with a couple of all right heads there. Right down here we got some bunching onion climbing out of the bed there. Now, if you remember the last episode, I teased out this little plant here. This plant here is a ground cherry. Now I've got a few of these growing around the gardens, as we'll see as we continue the tour. Put them in a couple of different places to see how well they do in different environments. So I'm really hoping to get something off of these plants. Last season at the National Heirloom Expo, one of the things I did get to try that someone brought around was a bag of ground cherries. I thought they were so delicious. I went and searched out seeds so that I could grow them for myself. So, hopefully here later in the season, we'll have some nice ripe ground cherry fruits to try. So in between the carports here, we have a little space that we grow some plants in. Down this trellis, we've got some beans we're gonna grow up there. Did plant a few different other plants, but I'm not having too much luck with my beans right now. Did only get one plant there, but I bet you that thing will just really take over this trellis like crazy. And right in front, we've got my Tres Amigos Poblanos. My 3 Poblano friends. So I really like Poblanos. So I've got a nice little patch here growing. A little bit of celery here as well. And one other thing real quick, let me show a clip here real quick of when we were planting out some leeks in this space. I've planted out in front of all of this, around this spot here, these leeks. Now with leeks, from what I've learned, and I did test this out a couple of seasons ago, what you want to do is you grow your starts out, and then when you plant them in, I just took the end of my rake created a nice deep hole about 3 inches or so down. And then I just take the starts, just kind of stick them right in there. You know, one thing I do want to do is just kind of move them up and down a minute there to get those roots to go down to the bottom. And what this does is it basically what I think it's called blanching. And what's below the line there, well, eventually the soil will fall in as these will start growing down into the ground there. They'll stiffen up and that'll fall in. And as the plant grows out, down below there is that white part of the leek that you'll get. And the deeper the hole that you put them in, the more of the white that you get. And that's the really good stuff on the plant. So hopefully we'll have some really nice leeks. Now our leeks are growing in there, kind of filling in, and over in this space as well. Right up here up front, as you can tell, we have no leeks. Now everybody knows in our garden we have our little buddy Carl. And Carl, my cat, does not bother with anything in my garden. He doesn't lay in my plants like Bug used to. He doesn't do anything. But Carl must have come over here. I didn't see him when he did, but he must have bit onto one of those things like it was grass, like he does with the cat grass over on the other side. And probably just really surprised him that that didn't taste anything like grass. So Carl proceeded to dig out all of those leeks in the front. The only damage he's ever done to my garden, and I watched him do it. I couldn't get my camera out fast enough to get video of him, but he ripped those things right out of there. Those first ones before I could chase him away before he got to the other ones. So he hasn't gone back to take out any of the other ones, but Carl does not like leeks. Let's just put it that way. So continuing our garden tour here, we're in the back alleyway, and as you can tell right up above me, behind me there on the carport, you can see our peppers are doing just fine up underneath of that shade cloth up there. It is still really hot. 100-degree weather is staying persistent, so hopefully, as I said before, that shade cloth should really help us out in growing those peppers and not really having too much heat pressure on them, holding back some of our production. So let's take a look here in the back alleyway and see some of the things we got growing on here. Here's another one of our ground cherries that we're growing. This is probably the strongest and best looking plant out of them all. And just another little smaller one that isn't doing too well. Has been dealing with some of the bug pressure. But it's trying to put out some new leaves, so we'll see what ends up happening there with that. And right down along the way, starting with this plant, that one, and down the way there, we've got eggplants growing. These eggplants are still looking kind of small, but I remember last season I doubted my eggplants really bad. I doubted them, and they ended up being really one of the best plants that we had last season. We had some really nice eggplants to share with the neighbors. And volunteers, our sunflowers. I planted sunflowers a couple of seasons ago. I haven't had to plant them again since. I think we're going to cut this one in the front back a little bit. It is hanging over the alleyway a little bit too much there. Don't want it rubbing up on people's cars. Now, let's take a look at this corn here. We planted a couple episodes back. It's coming up really nice, but back here, one of the one of the seeds actually got down. It must have washed out or been pulled out by some animal or something like that and came down and popped up in the roadway basically. So it's looking like a good plant there. We'll see if it survives a transplant. I'm thinking about doing that with a couple of these just to kind of bunch them up in some of our spaces here. Just kind of make sure that they're all really together really well. But one's back here coming up really nice. And remember in the last episode from the garden tour, we talked about that cantaloupe on the other side was popping through. There. It's coming right through the gate there. Found its way back there, and it really likes this side. It's taken off. So I'm gonna find a way to kind of maybe loop it around the front and take it down this way if it can. All right, and that leads us here to our corn that we planted in the side alleyway plot. Now this corn's really doing well. Looking really strong. We did have to thin out some of the stalks, as we did plant quite a bit of them. And kind of the same as the alleyway, we've got what is our mystery melon, which I'm sure is some sort of cantaloupe, growing right out of the middle, growing right out the sides. This corn's looking really nice. Right up front too. Planted out some onions. Onions are doing pretty good for the most part. We've got where I plant out cilantro. And our cilantro has went to seed. As you can see, there's plenty of seed there. I'm going to take this seed here in just another few weeks and replant it out for the fall. So we'll have a nice fall cilantro harvest to go along with all of our tomatoes and peppers and onions. Make some really nice salsas. All right, so while we're going around and we're checking out all the really cool things growing on here in our gardens, I'm gonna take a minute or so and plant out some squash plants that I've got here at the gardens. They're getting pretty big. They're ready to get in the ground. Large containers back here. We've got an iCard up above right now for an episode about planting out our container potatoes. And these potatoes have grown really well. They've come out of these containers and had really nice plants. We even had some volunteers come up out of this container from last season, as well as this container as well. So I'm really excited about doing a harvest video here real soon. As you can tell, these plants are pretty much died off. Kind of waiting for the blue potatoes over here. They seem to be still growing, still producing some pretty green leaves and stalks. So when that one dies back here in a couple of weeks, we'll do an episode on our potato harvest. Now in our buckets, which is our water wicking 5-gallon buckets, we've got another one of our ground cherries. This plant looks really, really nice too. So we'll see how well we do with the ground cherries growing inside of our buckets as well. And right behind them, we've got some more of our peppers growing down here in the back patio area. Same with over here. Got some more peppers growing. And over here, we've still got some greens growing in our box. We've harvested most of them out. Still got a few things in there, like some chard left over. Most everything, as the heat got in, started growing to seed. Same here with this plant as well. Now I see posts about this sort of thing all the time, pictures and people who put, what's going on with my lettuce? Why is it so tall? And what's happening? Well, your lettuce has gone to seed. It's producing seed pods so that it can produce new heads of lettuce. Now the heat of summertime for most greens is going to cause this to happen. They're going to shoot up, create a really tough, strong stalk, and most of the plant is just going to be really bitter and really, really not very tasty. So we've got a lot of things going to seed all over the gardens right now as we're clearing them out. Right here in this box though, another thing we've got here, which we're going to see what ultimately happens with this one, as we'll see the next plant after this, but this is a Brussels sprouts. You see they're starting to grow some little nubs in between each of those stems there. But the same thing too is that, you know, with the really, really hot weather, I'm not too sure how these guys are going to react. They should be grown a lot earlier than what we put them in here. And same goes for our broccoli. Planted out the broccoli, and a lot of the leaves are just really small, and it's growing really kind of tall, just kind of legging out in a sense, and we're not getting very big florets. Same with this one over here. And that's probably about all we're going to get off of these two. So I'm going to cut these off and take these down because those florets are just going to spread and go to seed here real quick. So we'll try to take advantage of the space and plant something else out. And we got a sunflower growing out of our container. Like I said, when you grow sunflowers, you grow them everywhere. This is a volunteer that made it from somewhere over there on the other side of the alley, right into that spot. Now, right over here, you can see we got some tomato plants. Again, more volunteers. All of these tomatoes all grew from tomatoes that we were growing here last year. And if anybody participated in my seed giveaway, these are the Praxis cherry tomatoes. We gave away seeds to those plants this last season. In between, we got a couple of more pepper plants there. And right behind these ones here, we got some pole beans growing. bean trellis that we got set up. And over here, some more cucumber. And right behind it here, the last of our ground cherries. This one I'm not too sure about, but should be all right. It's just one of the smallest ones we got. Our little greenhouse here, all empty at the moment. Getting ready to start planting out some seeds for our fall gardens. And another cantaloupe growing out of this container. Just one of the extras I had, so I put it in a little container there in the corner. Seems to be really liking it. And right in here, you can see we got some little fruits are forming. Plant out some new stuff here as we've been kind of fixing up and doing a little building. A little fig start here. We'll get off the neighbor's fig tree. Don't know if it's gonna do anything. It does look like it's a little green in there still. So maybe something's gonna come out of there, I'm not sure. Now I'm gonna put a link back up top there on the iCard. Talk about our above ground raised beds. And I talked about this one here. We had gotten all of our repairs finished on this one here. And this one's really just a waist high. You can just basically plant and garden right from it, standing right up. No need to bend over or anything at all. We did some repairs to it. I added another layer of depth to it. We redid a couple of legs, put in new wood on the bottom, but this time it's gonna be really deep. We're gonna have a really nice deep bed here. So as we get going towards fall, I think we're gonna start planting out some deeper carrots in this one. And some more cucumbers growing over here. Starting to climb up our lattice. I'm sure within another month, it'll climb all the way up there. Now, our other raised bed here, that's above ground raised bed. As you can see, we got a bunch of carrots already growing here. These are kind of a Parisian type carrot, so they're just like little small balls. They don't have much of a root to them, so they don't require too deep of a bed, which will be a big benefit with the other deeper one. We'll be able to plant some longer type carrots, some Nantes's or something. I think I'm gonna do some more Parisians though in this bed after I take out the rest of these radishes. Most of these radishes are pretty much done going to seed themselves. Pump out these flowers here, and as you can see underneath of the flower, starting to make this little pod there. I'll show you real quick here. Over here we've got some dried up ones. We'll make these pods. And inside of them, you'll have seed. Now, we got some onion seed here as well, along with our radish seed. Most of these leaves, though, are our blue potatoes like we were talking about before. And I've got this smaller above ground raised bed here, but the bottom fell through on it, so I gotta repair this one out here next. I'm trying to let these seeds on the onions dry out just a little bit more. Collect the seed and then we'll make that repair. Again, more of the lettuce that's gone to seed. Nice little cabbage moth there, laying eggs on the cabbage back there too. But see again, these strong, stiff stalks. And eventually right out of the top of these will pop out a seed head. Now also in that episode about the above ground raised beds, we did see that I built these out here in our back carport. I did ask for suggestions on what I should grow in this. I went with cucumbers, more cucumbers. Growing right up our trellis here. It's just a nylon trellis that we attached around the corner. And our cucumber plants are growing really, really well, weaving themselves in and out. Although you would think a plant would be able to do most of that itself and figure its way through there, but you do gotta kind of help those things get in and out of those different squares to make sure they climb up just right. Otherwise they'll get a little straggly and go all over the place. All right, this is what it looks like from the neighbor's side. Starting to fill up, really nice. This is the side that faces the sun most of the time, so that's why you see all the really nice big leaves and flowers coming out. Maybe next we'll grow some peas for the fall and winter. All right. Got another iCard I'm putting up above right now to an episode we did last summer. The first collaboration we did with Martine Bruchot. And we talked about container citrus. And we got ourselves a blood orange tree. Now, the thing in the story about this blood orange tree, though, is I was really, really worried. I didn't know what I was going to tell Martine next time I saw him on our next collaboration, which hopefully should be real soon, about this if I'd actually killed it. This winter got a little cold, and I did the best I could in order to keep it taken care of really well. But boy, it died back almost completely, and I was really worried whether or not it would grow back at all. But as you can see, we're getting lots of nice new growth. The leaves are looking really, really nice and green and shiny. Not even really seeing too much damage at all to some of them. There's a few things here, but for the most part, everything's looking pretty nice, pretty strong. A couple of them might need to be pruned back a little bit more here on the top. But I think it's coming back really, really well. So hopefully I'll be able to take care of this a lot better this next winter. I think I'll probably bring it in. So that'll pretty much do it for the overall 2018 summer garden tour here at the Urban Gardens. I hope you've really enjoyed some of the things that we've been growing so far. And as I said and have shown, there are some projects and some things that we're continuing to do. We're going to be getting ready to grow into this fall as we're coming up. So there's a ton more coming up here on the Urban Gardener. So I really do encourage you to keep following along, keep checking out new episodes as they come out. Couple of things though, real quick before we go. I did want to talk about one thing. One of the things I did quite a few things with last season was my community garden. Now, I do have a community garden plot down at the local park that's just a few blocks away from here. But like another continuing theme that we have going on here this year is that there are plenty of distractions and things that are happening, and some things are just getting out too late. And that's the same case when it comes to the community garden. Just a bunch of things got piled up and just wasn't able to get that going for this season. So as soon as the summer season starts to cool off a little bit more and we get some of those starts going for our fall gardens, we're going to go down to the community garden and we're going to get it going for some good fall gardening. So we're not done with the community garden. It is still there. We're just having to wait just a little bit more to get things growing there. So that's another thing to look forward to as we get moving forward here on the Urban Gardener, is checking out how our community garden fares out this fall and going into winter and next spring. So look forward to that, and look forward to many other projects like our above ground raised bed that we got there. It's gonna be really fun. I'm gonna have to go out and get some soil and fill it up. It's gonna take quite a bit, but we'll get that project done here real soon. So in an upcoming episode, we can check out how we get some carrots and stuff growing out of that raised bed. And also our potatoes. Look forward to a potato harvest episode and see how well we've grown in those containers. Last year we didn't do too well, so fingers crossed that we've got something really nice this season. All right, so you all know the routine. If you have any questions, comments, concerns at all, hit me up in the comment section down below. I'd love to answer any of your questions. Give this video a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Follow along with more garden adventures here on the Urban Gardener. And I'll see you again on the next episode. Fine up and underneath of that shade cloth. Let's try that again. So we're back. We're growing around here. That's not what I'm saying. Not at all. So all right, while we're waiting, we're not waiting. The second episode probably just a little bit quicker than the first one. Maybe not, actually. If you haven't already, give this channel a subscribe. I'm gonna do that all over again. Give me a big thumbs up for this video and the 2018 garden tour. The like button right below too as well. That's terrible. I think we've done this outro enough that we'd be able to get it done right. So y'all know, y'all. So y'all know